Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
PD Beats here from Popternative, speaking to Dion Johnstone about season 2 of Sweet Magnolias, which recently dropped on Netflix. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for your time.
Awesome. Thanks for having me here.
It's really exciting. I mean, it kind of drops on Netflix. It's because it has such a global fan base and because it's so quick and people binge culture. Isn't it crazy how insane, how quick the reception is when a new season drops?
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, I think we found out the day after it dropped that it went to number one on the top 10 list in the US. I'm here in Canada, and it hit number one in Canada as well.
Yeah.
It's been number one in 14 countries around the world, which is just phenomenal.
And the first season did good, and it's one of those things. The first season did excellent, and obviously a lot of people wanted a season 2 as soon as they dropped season 1. I think we're kind of in the same boat now with season 2, right?
Right.
What's your mindset though as an actor when you find out you have you're getting a season 2, and you're gonna kind of go in and film it and kind of see the stories and the arcs grow? What's your mindset? I'm just curious, even before you go start season 2.
Yeah, this is the first show that I've been on where I've played a role that I've gotten a second season. So I've had the opportunity to evolve a character from season 1 to season 2. So I was very excited to have this experience for that particular reason, to see what that would be like.
Yeah.
And one of the great things is, my character's been through so many adventures and had so many experiences in season 1, and that's sort of logged in, and that exists there as a
it's like what could happen in season 2 for your character?
yeah. And so my mindset was like, what are the new notes that can be played on the keyboard? I already have these notes. We already know this about my character, and the notes were sort of limited within a certain range, because most of what I did happened within the kitchen as well too. So this season was going to expand out further. It was going to take me outside of the kitchen, move me into the community more, and develop things with Helen as well too. And so it was the opportunity for me to go, well, with each scene, what new colors can I bring that we haven't seen in Eric so far?
100%. No, absolutely. Is it also an interesting thing where you look at a show like Sweet Magnolias, and I see the fan reception online, because that's part of kind of the gig with Popternative, like we're a media outlet, we cover everything. So we kind of we want to look into it and see what specifically, like there's specific characters people enjoy in Sweet Magnolias, but the consensus I'm seeing is kind of the obvious one, where I think people enjoy the family component of the show. And I'm wondering if you agree with that in terms of when you signed on to the project and you're reading the scripts and everything. I mean, does the big theme of family kind of stand out? And does that still stay with you after filming season 2 of this as well?
I think so. Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's one of the most remarkable things about this show, that you don't have a lot out there. Yeah. And it's a show that you could quite literally sit and watch with your grandparents, your parents, and your kids. An entire family can watch it, because the storylines are equally invested in all of those characters. Yep. So the experiences and the challenges and the journey that the younger cast is going through are equivalent to that the adult characters are going through. And when you look at the 3 main Magnolias, they're also reflected and supported by the older generation, the original generation of Magnolias, their parents. Yeah. And so it really creates a show that everyone can plug in and find who they connect with the most.
It's interesting you mentioned that about the Magnolias, because that's a good kind of I had a question kind of to piggyback on that a little bit. I find it very interesting as well, Dion, that we've been, like, as a world, we've been through this global pandemic where I feel like a lot of self-reflection has been done. We had a lot of moments where I think we were kind of staying at home. A lot of music was being written by a lot of musicians because they were home just thinking about everything, staying at home. obviously Sweet Magnolias doesn't take place in like a pandemic or anything. I do think there's a lot of self-reflection happening with the Magnolias and a lot of the characters throughout as well. Do you agree with me on that as well? Self-reflection, thematic aspects of it?
Yeah, on one level, I think that was part of why the show was so successful in its first season, is that it dropped at a point where I remember it hit in, I believe, May of 2001 maybe.
Yeah.
And we'd been through the first wave of the pandemic, and I remember watching everything on Netflix and kind of going like, what next? And at the time, a lot of people were into the disaster films and zombie stuff and stuff that sort of reflected the paranoia of the time. And then people were sort of saturated with that and just kind of going, we're not out of this yet. I need something different, and I can't keep keeping this on.
Something heartfelt, something that's going to hit. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that really spoke to people's need for relief and just something simpler and something with more feeling. And another thing about the show is there's a big in-running theme of redemption, of going through the challenges of life, and yet it's still not too late, no matter what the odds seem to be, to change. And,
for sure.
And I think those are a lot of the things that we think about. Like, things aren't necessarily working out the way that we had set our life up to be, especially with this pandemic. A lot of people have had to make hard turns, and this show sort of reflects, how do you do that? How do you pick up the pieces and make a different choice? How do you look at the steps that you've made in the past that maybe weren't great steps and make a better one? Try to start a new beginning.
So you're on the same page with me, though, with the self-reflection component.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Because that was a big thing, especially, I had a chance to speak to, Annalise Judge and Logan Allen and even the kids on the show. They saw that theme right away with a lot of characters have to make kind of decisions. Some characters don't make the best decisions. Some characters make better decisions than others, but everyone's kind of has that kind of growth in that arc. And everyone, I even see from season 1 to season 2, the growth because of the self-reflection that these characters are doing and all these conversations and everything. That's one of the things I enjoy about the show too, the conversation component of it. Like the Magnolias just chatting and everything. Like, that's a really simple thing to like, but that's something that I feel like that hits hard as well, just the dialogue.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's a big thing without getting into any spoilers with where my character arc is in. But, you learn a lot about my character that all of a sudden makes his actions and his behavior of the first season make a lot of sense.
It makes sense, absolutely, because you're kind of looking at. But yeah, I feel like as a fan of the show, and again, all the Reddit groups and all the Facebook groups, they look at Eric, and I feel like people kind of have these kind of theories, like you just said, that like, I think we're gonna kind of find out in season 2. You know what I mean? Because at one point it's announced that season 2 is coming, right? And then there's all these questions. I think you get that a lot with your character. People saying, what the way he was early on in the show was for a reason. And then I think we find that out, which is very interesting. You bring that up, but it's all over the people love Sweet Magnolias. It's great. It's such
great.
The fan. It's great. Isn't it crazy to see the fan base and the theories and everything? It's cool, right?
Oh yeah.
It's so cool. Just in general,
it's an amazing feeling to know that you're affecting people on such a deep level, and that people are so invested and need to know the answers and care about which direction your character is moving in. And saying, oh no, don't make that decision. Don't do that.
Absolutely.
That's a wonderful thing.
It's out now. Obviously, we don't want to go into spoilers because just in case someone watches this interview on our YouTube channel and is about to start season 2. We don't want to be like, oh my God, you know what I mean?
And if you are, you have been forewarned.
Yeah, forewarned. Popternative, we were very active on our Instagram account. We posted a meme today, just basically saying when your favorite show has back-to-back cliffhanger season after season.
Oh yeah.
And Annalise Judge put it in her story, so the Sweet Magnolia fans are really sharing that right now. But it's true, so I'm just curious. We're obviously not going to say what happens, but we gotta wait again, right?
Oh yeah. My hope is that however Netflix figures out whether to,
of course,
grant a second, a third season or not, whatever their algorithm, whatever that is that, season or not, that the decision will be made quickly.
Yeah.
I think a lot of time had to pass because we were in the middle of the pandemic and everyone was trying to figure out how do we go about filming and are we going to do that in the state of Georgia? How are we going to do that for this show? And so time had to, but we've figured a lot of that stuff out now. And the film industry is moving quite smoothly, regardless of still being in a pandemic.
Yeah.
So hopefully if we are to go again, and certainly the audience response is showing that people want it.
Yep.
That we find out and get started.
Season
quickly.
3,
so that the wait isn't as long as the last one was.
100%. General kind of a question before we kind of wrap up as well. I mean, Dion Johnstone is a storyteller. That's what you do basically. Whether people act, write, direct, perform music, storytelling. That's what we're talking about here. What excites you? What excites Dion Johnstone about storytelling?
I think it's two things really. One of them is in playing a character.
Yep.
Being able to invest myself so deeply in it that I find myself having experiences that I wouldn't normally have in life.
Okay.
So I walk away from a scene and I go, wow, that was amazing. That was so real. And I've now had that experience.
That hit hard.
And I would never have done that. I never would have gone there. I wouldn't have been brave enough to do that in my own life.
Yeah.
So it really offers you the opportunity to travel in another person's skin and just have these amazing life experiences.
Yep.
And the other aspect is the audience. And, my experience first comes from the stage. So I'm very used to having that feeling of an audience breathing with you as you go through the story and their reactions feeding you real time. And so even though it's a little different and it's a delayed response with film and TV, nonetheless, when I hear about or know of people being affected by what I've done, by the story that I've told, it's speaking to them in some way and creating a change in them in some way. That's it's very moving for me, and it's why I do it.
Fantastic. No, that's an amazing answer. That's one of our first. I ask that question from time to time because I just love the answers I get. That was the first part A, part B answer to the question I've ever which I love. But the thing is, it's such an I think too. What my favorite thing what excites me about storytelling is stories that weren't told before are also finally getting told now. Which is a huge one. That's
very exciting.
Right? Yeah. It is, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so cool.
I see more and more of that. Stories come to life. Stories from different aspects, different cultures, different relationships that just were never allowed on screen before.
Yep.
And seeing that diversity come to the screen is really exciting. We learn more about ourselves as society, as people.
Because I think
it helps us.
Yeah. It helps us as well. I think it's that and what you kind of said also with the audience perspective and things, but I also feel like the global component, I feel like, we're talking about Sweet Magnolias, season 2 just dropped on Netflix, and talk about worldwide global scale, Netflix available in 190 countries. I mean, that amazes me. The amount of amazing content globally that we are able to watch and consume. Yeah. I love it. You know what I mean? I love it.
Yeah.
Bring it on. There's no limits. There's no boundaries. There's no borders anymore with all the content we can consume.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you say you're in
Canada. You go.
Yeah, but you're in Canada. I'm also Canadian as well. I'm in Ottawa. So I'm also Canadian.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So you know how it is, right? I grew up in Canada. I only watched a certain amount of TV shows, right? Or a certain amount. Now that's not the case at all, with Netflix.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is
tune in anywhere.
You can basically tune in anywhere. And no, it's so great. And I wanted to thank you so much for coming on Popternative and chatting about Sweet Magnolias. I had a great time chatting with you.
The pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, season 2 of Sweet Magnolias is now dropped on Netflix, so they can check it out. Where can people follow you on social media to keep update with everything?
You can find me on Instagram at Dion Johnstone. Yep. And also at Dion Johnstone on Twitter and Facebook.
Amazing. Well, this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. You can catch Dion Johnstone as Eric in Sweet Magnolias Season 2 just dropped worldwide on Netflix. Until next time, this is Dion and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.